It was a day like any other day. A case, maybe the case. No, never the case, but a case. A snapshot in the parking lot. Man and woman embrace. Partners in crime ignite the infidelity into these crimes of passion. Betrayal. I see it every day like my own reflection in the mirror staring back at me. Another case, another bottle of booze. Life is no longer a mystery to me. No, wait. Wrong case. This was a case about a video game. It all started when a certain publisher of interactive art reviews released their story for a highly anticipated release. Mouse. PI for hire. A 6? No. That couldn't be right. This was quite the scandal, and something wasn't adding up. There's no way a game this highly anticipated, this seemingly well-crafted, could have received such a low score. I mean, the damn thing had merchandise before it even came out. No, something was stinkier than an anchovy pizza topped with way too much Parmesan. So I had to see for myself. Did Mouse PI for Hire actually stink, like someone who cut the cheese after a night in Wisconsin? Or was this game actually gouda, and this was a case of another out-of-touch game journalist with a Limburger of a review? Mouse PI for Hire was a game I was most looking forward to this year. It's a boomer shooter, seemingly taking inspiration from modern Doom games, as well as 2000s shooters like BioShock, packaged in a surreal 1930s cartoon-inspired aesthetic, complete with timely black and white hand-drawn graphics. Everything about this game had me interested from the get-go. I love FPS games, I love hand-drawn graphics in games, and I very much enjoy 1930s cartoons, especially the works of Flesher Studios, my favorites being the Bimbo shorts, specifically Bimbo's Initiation, which I think I mentioned in my Cuphead review.
Wanna be a member? Wanna be a member?
No.
And speaking of Cuphead, comparisons between both games are naturally going to occur, though beyond the 1930s surrealist cartoon aesthetic, the games couldn't be any more different. The devs at Fumi Games really pulled off the aesthetic well. The game looks great, with expressive, detailed animations, creative gun designs that lean into the rubber hose physics of 1930s cartoons really nicely, and a decent variety of environments and enemies to keep the game fresh and exciting. The game features good music too, mostly swingy jazz appropriate for the time period. Beyond the 1930s cartoon aesthetic, the game also goes in on a 1940s, 1950s noir film aesthetic, where you play as Jack Pepper, a rough ex-soldier turned private investigator. He's gruff, rude, and shoots first and asks questions later, which may sound counterintuitive to a detective, but it makes for an exciting main character. He is investigating the case of a murdered magician, Steve Bandel, his friend from the war. The game features a cast of great characters, all featuring stereotypical roles of noir film. Cornelius Stinton, another of Jack's war friends turned politician. Tammy Tumbler, a young woman who Jack has taken on as a sort of foster daughter. John Brown, Jack's friend and owner of the bar that he frequents. Wanda Fuller, the typical journalist working with Jack to get the latest scoop. And Vivian McCarthy, the dangerous dame with the hourglass figure, the femme fatale who comes to Jack for help, despite her own risky involvement with the wrong crowd. I found all the characters to be fun to interact with, and all were well voice acted. The thing that surprised me most was how much I really liked the story of this game. Story is usually the element of a game that interests me the least, but I found myself really enjoying it here. The cases themselves were interesting. I liked the villains, the different locations that pushed the story forward were fun to go to, and the mystery kept me engaged in wanting to know more. Like every good detective story, the case of the murder of Steve Bandel spirals into a conspiracy of political intrigue, mad scientists, mob involvement, a corrupt police force, an illegal alcohol trade, cheese-legging, it's called in this game, a devil-worshipping cult, and even a post-World War II analogy featuring emerging fascism within the hero's political system and a kidnapping and smuggling ring involving shrews, which, like their real-world counterpart, are depicted as physically smaller than the rest of the mice you interact with. It's surprisingly deep for a game with a seemingly outward, silly aesthetic, but felt really natural. It's told completely serious. There are jokes and pop culture references and a lot of cheese puns, but for the most part, the game feels genuine. preventing the game from feeling insincere like the humor in a game like Borderlands. Mouse works because there's no wink at the camera. It takes itself seriously, like the best of parody comedies. And noir has historically lended itself well to comedies. The juxtaposition of the dark and overly serious crime noir genre, mixed with slapstick and over-the-top humor, just works. This seems to be the main issue IGN had with the game, according to their review. Mouse PI for Hire is an amusing enough FPS if you just want to blast some cartoon mice and not think too hard about it. But its haphazard marriage of noir storytelling and boomer shooter action are at odds in an uncomfortable way that weakens both aspects. Does this reviewer also not like A Shot in the Dark, or Naked Gun, or Roger fucking Rabbit? I personally find the juxtaposition of wacky, surrealist 1930s cartoon aesthetic with stereotypical crime noir told seriously and straight, but with some humor, to be extremely unique and enjoyable. There's nothing uncomfortable about it. Okay, case closed. Limburger confirmed. No, wait. There's still a lot more I have to say about this case. Despite my enjoyment of the general presentation and aesthetic, not all of the pop culture references land. I found the cheese puns endearing, considering this is a world of anthropomorphic mice, but there are some pop culture references that just don't land for me, given the setting and tone for the game. Like, why are there references to the 1990 Street Fighter movie?
I saw you throw others into the sun with one hand.
Or Grand Theft Auto.
All right. Lesson learned. Just don't follow the damn train.
Or Ghostbusters.
Wait a minute. Corny? That you in there?
It's no corny, only soup.
No. Too old.
I don't think it quite hits millennial quirk chungus levels of pop culture references, but some of these really don't fit with the aesthetic of the game, which is probably my only real critique of the presentation. Some of the gaming references I think do work, due to the genre, even though they aren't quite relevant time period-wise, like the Tommy gun-toting cultists being a clear reference to blood, or the entire level in Hell where you get a chainsaw feeling very much like Doom, complete with a cacodemon parody. There's a reference to Cuphead too, where you drink from a cup reminiscent of Cuphead's head, then you get a power-up where you shoot with your fingers, like in Cuphead. Another annoyance with the presentation is the way certain lines of enemy dialogue and music loop. It's not the worst thing in the world for me, but this boss fight, for example, began to get annoying with how often his dialogue repeated. And while it didn't bother me, the whistling theme song looped throughout certain levels absolutely pissed my fiancée off, and she complained to me as I was playing the level. Overall, the presentation, the graphics, the music, the story is all really good though, and I genuinely like it. Mouse PI is added to the pile of hand-drawn games done really well. I like that the game is in black and white, and I feel like it adds to the overall aesthetic and helps separate it from something like Cuphead. But how is the gameplay? The most important aspect of any game. Personally, I really like that element of Mouse PI too. It plays like a modern boomer shooter, modern Doom, or most closely, Shadow Warrior 3. It doesn't feature the maze-like levels of classic boomer shooters, but has more linear level design that funnels in and out of locked combat arenas, with secret areas to find as you traverse around. And Mouse PI has a lot of secrets to find. Hidden areas containing collectibles, baseball cards, weapon upgrade blueprints, money, and comic strips. It's very easy to miss these things, and there's no level select, so make sure you are attentively searching through every nook and cranny or you will miss something. I missed a couple baseball cards and comic strips and over half of the Funko Pop figures at the end of my first playthrough, though I did manage to get every gun and gun upgrade during my first playthrough. I think the game would really benefit from being able to replay levels, especially since there's planned DLC in the works. Gunplay is super tight, with a focus on fast-paced combat arenas and weapon swapping combos. There are a ton of guns in this game, basic stuff like a pistol, a shotgun, a super shotgun called the Kiss Kiss, a Tommy gun, dynamite, and rocket launcher, but also wild stuff like a chainsaw that shoots a spread of fire, the Devarnisher, which melts enemies with an acid solution, a freeze ray, the Jarhead, which causes enemies' heads to explode, and the Ray Gun, which needs to be unlocked by winning 20 baseball card matches. Every gun except for the chainsaw and ray gun can be upgraded 3 times to give more ammo and damage, or increased fire rate, or reduced spread, as well as unlock a secondary fire mode. Some guns are definitely better than others and are more useful, but I never thought any of the guns were completely useless either. My favorites were the Tommy gun, the Devarnisher, and the Jarhead, but I also used the super shotgun, chainsaw, rocket launcher, and dynamite a lot, and found the pistol, shotgun, and freeze ray useful in certain situations. You can also punch and kick if enemies get too close. The punch is usable as its own weapon slot, but the kick is acting as a melee attack that you can use with all of your weapons. The super shotgun has a secondary fire that lights enemies on fire, and the Devarnisher acid sticks to enemies, giving damage over time for both guns. Compared to other shooters, the super shotgun can be perceived as weak, but I think the DOT offsets the lack of impact damage. And using it alongside other guns, like the Tommy gun or rocket launcher, just absolutely melts most enemies. Like Doom Eternal or Shadow Warrior 3, gun combos are your friend. Use them. On bosses, I found a 3-gun combo of the Super Shotgun and Devarnisher to get double DOT, then switching to something else to get off a string of impact shots before setting up another combo of Super Shotgun / Devarnisher into 3rd gun was very useful for doing a lot of really quick damage. As the game progresses, you'll get enhanced mobility moves to help the combat pace go even faster, as well as set up fun platforming sections between combat encounters. You'll get a double jump, a dash, a helicopter tail glide thing, and the wall run. I do wish that the arenas incorporated some more opportunities for platforming, especially wall running a la Shadow Warrior 3, but I found myself utilizing these mobility options during combat in fun ways. There's a variety of enemies to fight, basic mouse guys with guns or bats, snipers that can teleport all over, shrews that are small and fast and can bomb you but are weak, big rat guys that will get up close to you and punch you and have a lot of health. Figuring out which guns to use against which enemies and which enemies to prioritize in arenas is a fun part of the combat loop, though it never gets as complex as something like modern Doom. There are power-ups to find, the mentioned Cuphead finger gun, a pepper which gives fire damage to all your guns, spinach which makes your arm grow like a Popeye cartoon, giving you strong punching attacks. These add more variety to combat arenas, making more strategy about when to use them or which enemies to focus on while you have them. Strewn about are health and armor pickups as well, and cheese, which you can hold 9 of as a usable item that will revive health when you need it. I found health and armor to be in abundance and never felt like I was that low on health or armor, even on the hardest difficulty. Honestly, as a whole, I found the game to be extremely easy, only dying a handful of times, and never dying in arena more than once. Part of the reason is, when you die, you respawn with full health, and first aid boxes containing enough health respawn after enough time passes, meaning you never need to strategize about when to heal, or learn an arena to avoid taking unnecessary damage. And that's not even taking the mentioned cheese into account, which I hardly ever needed to use, and had a maxed out stock of 9 almost my entire time playing. I think the difficulty does need a little tweaking to add more challenge, because as it is now, I found it pretty easy, even on the hardest difficulty. Fun, don't get me wrong, but easy. The levels are all fun to explore and travel through, though one thing that was marketed that felt like it didn't go quite deep enough was the open-ended ImSim elements. They kind of advertised that missions would have a variety of ways to go about them. Do you sneak through a duct, or bribe somebody with a key, or do you just go in guns blazing? It made it seem like you'd have these choices throughout the entire game. But in reality, you really only have one mission that's like this. Every other mission is very linear. You'll still be sneaking through ducts and talking to NPCs, but there's no real choice to it. You need to do these things to progress. Really, the only Bioshock element comes from the lockpicking minigame, which you'll be doing a lot, unlocking safes and doors as you move your tail through a maze, hitting lock pins and avoiding spikes to unlock a door or safe. Some of them have time limits, some of them have limited moves you can make. Some you can redo if you fail, some you can't. Luckily, the checkpoint system is fairly forgiving, so you'll always be able to reload a save to a point right before your failed attempt, if you get locked out of a safe. The last core part of gameplay is the baseball card minigame. It's actually not that bad for a minigame like this. As you play the game, you collect baseball cards with different stats. The game is broken up into innings, one where you bat and one where you pitch. Essentially, you place cards on a field, and the card with the highest stat wins. The goal is to get your players home for points before the inning ends, or prevent the other player from scoring points. Having a card of 3 points or higher during batting results in a home run. Players can be buffed with stat cards for the turn that they are played. It has some light strategy, but honestly just comes down to picking your best cards up front to rack up points. It's fun, but I think needing to win 20 games to get the ray gun is a little excessive. Especially given the ray gun isn't really that useful for the most part, as you can only get ammo for it from shops between levels, except for the final boss where you have unlimited ammo. The ray gun is a beast for that fight. All in all, Mouse PI for Hire is great. A mix of amazing presentation, surprisingly good story, and tight, fun gameplay have resulted in an extremely satisfying boomer shooter experience. I'll always love hand-drawn graphics, and while I'm sure the 1930s thing will eventually become an overdone trend that I get sick of, for now I really like the surreal, cartoon aesthetic presented in the game. If you're looking for something similar to Modern Doom or Shadow Warrior, but that's a little different, definitely give Mouse PI for Hire a shot. I'm very interested to see how the developers improve the game now that they've gotten feedback for it, especially leading up to the DLC. I wish it had a level select and was more challenging, but it's still a definite Game of the Year contender for me. Case closed.